Okay, before I start, let's see who is the audience here in general. Like, how many people have some experience using AWS somehow? Okay. Any other cloud? GCP, Azure? Okay. Okay. Like, my lecture in general will be like, especially about AWS, but we can talk about general solution in the cloud area, not specifically on AWS. So a little bit about me. I start as, I can say, general developer. Like in the start of my career, I really start writing C sharp back then. And then after, I think, being a developer almost 10 years, I switched to be more on DevOps cloud area, especially in AWS, but also working at least on the last 2 years in GCP also. And right now I'm working as a freelancer here. Yeah, and the lecture in general will be about disaster recovery plan in cloud. That I will speak a little bit about how to plan it, what we need to consider, etc. I have to say, in general, from my experience, a lot of companies, even enterprise or large companies, doesn't really consider so much disaster recovery. Working as a freelancer, also as professionals in professional services companies, like even companies that have, I can say, more sensitive data, more high security, more high compliance, regulation, whatever, even there is no, like, I can say, real disaster recovery plan that is mature and built correctly, like we will see. And I think the only cases that I see it practically is that for example, a company have specific client that I don't know, he paying something like €1,000,000 or more, and there is like specific agreement that in the agreement it says that you need to plan disaster recovery and to represent it and to check it frequently, etc. So only in these cases that is really written in the specific agreement, that's why usually companies take it in seriously, I can say. But a lot of companies, starting from small one, medium, and even bigger one, I see a lot of gaps in this area. So let's start. I don't know if someone, or hi, if you remember last October, there was like an issue for AWS US East 1. Always remember this one. Like a lot of the internet was down for at least half a day or even more. So a lot of people, was wondering about the US East 1 that is down. And I don't know if you know, but in general, US East 1 region in AWS that is North Virginia has a lot of history with a lot of significant outages in the past. I have to say that me, as like working in AWS at least a decade, we usually don't want to build our infrastructure in US East 1 usually, because we know there are a lot of history of outage there. I don't know if you know, but something interesting that the support service for all AWS is in US East 1. So what happened that even customers that try to open support case for an issue doesn't really or can't really create a support ticket. And that's why AWS only realized after a while there is a major issue. Because they didn't get any support ticket before. And then after a while, one of their worker just realized that there is really an issue. So so this is interesting. Yeah, a lot of very fundamental services in AWS are in US East 1. So talking about disaster recovery, I can say a lot of people doing a mistake that speaking about they think that disaster recovery is also what we called multi-AZ or multi-availability zone. Yeah, in other words, a lot of people speaking about high availability, having high availability if they have their infrastructure in multi-availability zone. I don't know if you know the availability zone in general in AWS is like meaning the physical data center. Yeah, so meaning having multi-availability zone, meaning having, for example, at least two physical data center that having our infrastructure. But when we speak about disaster recovery, it at least should be in multi-region. So meaning that, for example, if I'm using a US region, so I at least need my infrastructure to be, for example, in another region, meaning US 1. So let's do it US West 1, for example, something like that. Especially if you're working in the US, you know, they have their own compliance, their own needs for security reason, etc. Speaking about in general or how to plan disaster recovery, usually we start from two main terms. One is called RTO, and the other called RPO. Like you see, RTO is recovery time objective, and RPO is recovery point objective. In other words, RPO is more in the meaning of using data. So for how long I can really having like, you know, an outage and losing data. Yeah, and then we need to find a solution for it. We will speak about it in a minute. And the RTO is in general how long it takes to me until I'm really up and running. Yeah. So usually, if we want to design a disaster recovery plan, we need at least to take these two terms or these two factors into consideration. So, like we see, the first one is how long I can afford data loss, and the second one is about more downtime in general. So for how long I can recover and be up and running in general. So like you see here in the table, we can define our RPO target, and then probably this one will cause us or will really help us to define how exactly we are going to do the disaster recovery plan. So meaning if, for example, the RPO should be milliseconds or seconds, like you see here, we need to do synchronous replication like every time. Yeah, the data should be synchronized always. And then if I have like something that's a minute, it can be a little bit more async. And then, you know, hours or day, it can be like backup, traditional backup or something like that, not like that we not something that is usually synced or something like that. So we have enough time to recover. Speaking about RTO is also, like you see, in millisecond or second, there is like a little bit what we call fault tolerance, meaning that the other infrastructure should be something like up and running almost, yeah, that in a second I can just switch between them. And speaking about more time, so we have more time to recovery, and then probably we can maybe create it from scratch in disaster time, or having it like what we called scale to zero. So in a few minutes we can scale it up. Like you see here, we have in general 4 strategies that we use to disaster recovery plan. Yeah, one is called, you see, backup and restore, pilot light, warm, standby, and multi-site or active. We will speak about each one more deeply. So, like you see, that the time for RPO and RTO really defined our strategy here, and also the cost. Yeah, so backup and restore is a most cheaper one, and the most expensive one is being active, like for, I can say, in general or for every time, and then like always we can have something like 2 infrastructure up and running and can just switch between them. So you see here, yeah, the example here takes from AWS, but like I said, in general, we can do it in another clouds also. But speaking about backup and restore, you see here that we always have backup in one region. We just save it in another region, and then in time of recovery, we take in all the data or storage data, and we also create from scratch all the other compute stuff that we want. Yeah, like instance, EC2 instance, or VM, or RDS instance, like a database or something like that. So we have enough time in order to get up and running for, yeah, in general. Pilot Light, that this is, like, I have to say, the most popular strategy, because I think this is coming of a balance between all the other, that in Pilot Light, we think the data always. So we always think about that the data should be sync always, meaning that we don't allow to lose a lot of data in some disaster recovery outage, but we have enough time from the compute, meaning, like you see here, we have like a plan for the compute, but it's scaled to 0. And then when we have some disaster recovery outage, we just scaling it up. So it will take so it will take a little bit more time that until all our infrastructure will be up and running, but we're not really losing a lot of data. Yeah, that's the point here. Like we say, the RPO is really kind of small, but the RTO can be bigger. So, for example, a lot of companies say, I don't want to lose data more than 5 minutes, but I have 3 hours until I can be up and running. So that's in general, like I said, the strategies that is very popular in a lot of companies. Another strategy, it's what we called warm standby. Warm standby, it means that the other region is up and running, but and for sure the data is sync like every time, but we have like a very minimal instance for it. So meaning we have like one instance for each application server or RDS or something like that. So like comparing it, for example, to Pilot Light, it's take here less time in order to full recovery, because we already have some of our infrastructure, especially the compute one, up and running, but still we need something I can say up to 1 hour in order to full recovery. So this is a warm standby strategy. And the final one is the active one. That's the expensive one. That means that we have second region that it's really up and running for everything, and we just switch usually in some Route 53, like I don't know if you know, but this is like service in AWS that managing I can say all the DNS names or something like that. So we just twist, for example, in the DNS from one load balancer to another one, and that's all, because the other region is really up and running and can get data in a second. So this is the last one and the most expensive one. Speaking about disaster recovery, I think that we need to mention another, I could say, also, I don't know, new field, but another field that's really related to it, that's called chaos engineering. Chaos engineering, in general, it means that we're doing like regularly chaos, what we call chaos testing, and we did it, or we plan it at least one for a quarter, something like that, that we can really see that our infrastructure is ready to some outage, to some issues or whatever. It's really improve resiliency, what we called, and the point here, it's not really to test it and to do it, but also to analyze our results and see what we can be, or what we can improve for the next one. There is like a very popular open source tool by Netflix that called Chaos Monkey that do it, but there are other tools also, and I think that's part of our disaster recovery plan should also recover this one too. And yeah, this is, I think, my last slide. So this is a little bit best practices approach for disaster recovery that I make from my experience, I can say. So in general, like you see, we need to manage all the stuff here, or all the process, and really design risk evaluation and control who is doing what, about really see how much it impacts the business, and really design a good disaster recovery strategy that fit our need. Another like, I think, a point to mention here, that it's written emergency response and operation. But I think that the also things that need to mention that in the matter of time, or if really disaster recovery is happening, we need to consider that we will do with the system at least operations that we can do, because let's be honest, in general, we don't really think that using another region is really a long-term solution. Yeah, it's only a solution until we can recover from our outage, or we can just having everything up and running, but not for the long term. So we need to consider that we need to do at least operation it needs in the time of really switching to the other region. And another points to mention are to plan the implementation and to having everything document. Yeah, that's also very important, because usually, you know, people that are in like stress or something like that don't really think a lot. So if they have really, you know, good documentation, maybe it will help them going through the process more easy. Awareness and training program, that's part of what we talk about chaos engineering, that doing it at least quarterly, test all the infrastructure, see that everything is working, improve what is not working, etc. Crisis communication, you know, in general, in a matter of crisis or some other stress, is very important to communicate to all the stakeholders or someone who is in charge what's the status. Yeah, I saw, I can say also from my experience, that when something happened, you know, a lot of, I can say, more technical or operational people are more focused on doing practically things, or just you know, trying to solve the issue, and they forget to communicate what the status with the management, with the other, you know, control people. And then after a while, they just think to themselves, okay, we found the problem, or we have a solution, but the management doesn't really know what the status. So you need to communicate more what is the status, what is going on, etc. And coordination with external agencies also. Usually we have clients after, and we need to communicate with them, and they need probably to trust us as a company after this issue also. Yeah, I think I end my stuff for now. Thank you.
Thank you.